pleasure to welcome you to the Coffee at 11 show on this beautiful Monday morning, and you're all more than welcome. In particular, I want to welcome my special guest this morning, Tom Flavin. Tom, would you please say a quick hello and show us your coffee mug?
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to be here. Thank you, Colm, for asking me.
My absolute pleasure, Tom. I said in the blurb beforehand, I've been a Tom Flavin fan for years, so I'm really excited about the chat here. So let me just tell you a little bit about Tom before I bring the man himself in. Tom Flavin, obviously, he's the executive chef of the Limerick Strand Hotel. What's your business do? It's a hotel. How many years established? 13. How many employees? There are 180. I didn't realise that, 180 employees in the Strand Hotel Limerick. Wow. Then Tom goes back into his background. He grew up in a dairy farm in West Limerick and now has over 25 years experience in the hospitality industry. Started his career in Manila at the age of 18, and prior to returning to Limerick and to Ireland indeed in 1999, he worked in Raffles Hotel Singapore, the Dorchester Hotel in London, and a variety of five-star hotel kitchens and fine dining restaurants in Australia. So really excited to hear about some of that stuff, Tom. Well, it shows in your work, if I may say. Tom is a member of Eurotuck Ireland and a Faulty Ireland food champion, promoting local food and tourism along the wild Atlantic way. Also a founding member of the Limerick Food Group and the Pigtown Food Series in Limerick. And his real passion is for supporting local producers, and therefore has over 40 local suppliers in the Limerick Strand Hotel. And the thing that struck me, I asked, what's something that nobody knows about you? And this surprised me. Tom is in fact a self-taught chef. Fascinating stuff. Tom Flavin, great to have you on the Coffee at 11 show. And so please, in your own words, will you bring us through those early years? Give us a few minutes on the farming life.
Yeah, I suppose grew up on a farm in West Limerick and always knew I wanted to be a chef. My cousin was a chef, so I was very lucky to be able to see, I suppose at the time back 40 odd years ago, spaghetti bolognese was never heard of in Ireland. You know what I mean? It was things like that that kind of was, oh my God, spaghetti pasta. And I didn't have a clue how to cook pasta. I was looking at these long strands of spaghetti going, I wonder how they make them soft. You know, so it was from way back then. Pavlova's, baked Alaska was big in the time. Prawn cocktails, all these things just mesmerized me. Because I suppose growing up on a farm, we had a lot of beef, we had a lot of bacon and cabbage, we had a lot of the staples of Ireland. Like we reared our own cattle, we had probably 30 cows. We killed, at the time it was okay to kill your own animals at home, so we killed a cow at least one a year. I remember from a very, very young age, underneath the cow, my aunt's husband was a butcher, so he used to come up. The family, everybody would be involved, the neighbours would come and give us a hand. We'd kill the cow, then you'd drain the blood. I remember being probably 4 or 5 at the time. Underneath the tractor, we'd raise the cow up from rear up and drain the blood from her throat, making black pudding. It was tradition handed down. I remember my nana was there, my dad, my mom, everybody, Lord mercy them all right now. And then we'd take the blood, cool it. So it was important to cool the blood quickly so that it wouldn't clot. And I remember being stuck in there with my hand in the blood, keeping it stirred over ice water. And I was just blown away by the whole thing. Then bringing the blood from the house where we'd kill the animal to the kitchen table, cooling it down, then adding the different bits of ingredients. It was minced onions. We had this old mincer that we used to wind like this. It's like the thing that you see them now in antique shops. But we'd put the garlic and the onions and the herbs through that, and breadcrumbs, barley, mix everything together, and then the debate with my nana and my mom saying, oh, a little bit more pepper, a little bit more salt, and they'd be like, no, there's enough. And it was just that kind of instilled in my brain from a very young age, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I just want to cook. And I suppose then going to school, my school lunches were always a bit wacky. I'd have toasted cheese sandwiches cold with mustard and brown sauce that kids of, I suppose, 7 or 8 were never eating. They're all looking at me going, he's the fella with the weird lunch. Which I suppose even today I'm always doing something different. I'm always trying something new, and they don't always work. Believe me, sometimes they're absolutely ridiculous concoctions. But if you don't try something, you'll never know. So from there, I suppose I went to school in Monaghan in West Limerick. My dad died when we were 5. There was 5 of us. So we had to work in the farm, you know, to help my mom. She had come back from London. She was nursing. She came back. working on a farm. She was afraid of cows. So then she had 5 kids and was left on a farm. We all helped out. And I suppose we just got stuck in, and it was never a poor me. It was like, okay, we got to get up and bring the cows in to get milk before we go to school. And you try not to get your uniform, but at the time we didn't have a uniform. You try not to get your clothes dirty going to school, or you don't want to have the smell of cows off you in the school, because you're like, oh, don't be telling the other kids that we were out collecting cows before we went to school, so it's just get up and do it. So, and I think that kind of philosophy stuck with me for the rest of my life, that if you want to get something done, you just get up and do it. So from there, I suppose I went to school in Newcastle West, in the secondary school. It's now a restaurant. Went to SMI, studied there, but always again knew that I wanted to be a chef, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. But when I finished school, I got the chance to, I applied for colleges. I got a chance to go to GMIT in Galway to do a chef cert training course. But my cousin was still working in the Philippines at the time, and he came home for his dad's funeral. His dad was my godfather, and I told him my chosen career path. I really wanted to be a chef, and he's like, forget college, just come with me. So I didn't have a second thought. I was like, gone. I had been working in a supermarket at the time, at a butcher's counter, so I was saving a bit of money. So my first time on a flight, I went to straight to the Philippines at the age of 18. I suppose when I got there, it kind of hit me, oh my God, what am I have to do? And, when you're young and you don't have a clue about the world really, you just get up and do it. I sat on my suitcase in the airport in the Philippines for about 18 hours because at the time they were having a typhoon, and it was like we'd landed in a lake. There was a cockroach running around the floor. I'd never in my life seen a cockroach. I went into the bathroom and there's a lizard. It's only a gecko, but for me it was a lizard. So these things kind of frightened me a bit, and I thought, God, what am I doing here? But I never looked back. It was fantastic. The people there were amazing. I learned so much about everything, about culture, about people, about getting on with people. I even learned the language. I was there for 2.5 years or so. So made some really, really good friends. Some of them are here in Ireland with me now, working in the Strand. Some of them will work in different hotels and restaurants around Ireland. But it's great to have these people, and they're very much like Irish. They're very welcoming. They took me into their homes. I just had a fantastic time. So at the time, I was still going out with my childhood sweetheart, Mary. We met, God, in first year, I think, or second year. So she went to London to train to be a nurse when I went to the Philippines. And we still have boxes and boxes of letters. We wrote 3 or 4 letters a week. At the time, there was no internet. There was no phones much. So I came back to London after 2.5 years. She was just finishing her training, and I went for a job in Dorchester. I went to a few hotels and restaurants around. I went to a few agencies, and they said, oh yeah, Tom Flavin, yeah, you come from where? Philippines? Yeah, that's strange. And you worked where? And you studied where? And a lot of them said, no, you won't get a job here. You have no qualifications. You have no real experience. They had never heard of Raffles Hotel, or they had never heard of where was it in Philippines, Souffle or Truffles restaurant, which were fine dining restaurants on top of their game in Manila. But of course, to somebody in London, they hadn't a clue. But I was very lucky enough to I was just, I suppose, brave, found out the name of the head chef in the Dorchester and rang him and said, I'm Tom Flavin, I've trained in the Philippines for the past 2 years, I'm looking for a job. And I started right at the bottom, commis chef. It was a commis 3 actually, and I worked night shift, peeling eggs, boiling eggs and peeling eggs and doing concassé tomatoes. And, started at the bottom, but within 6 years, I had passed out a lot of my chef de parties, a lot of the people who were my bosses. Within 5 years of the Dorchester, I was their boss. So again, it was just tremendously hard work, long hours, but fantastic quality of produce.
If I may just come in, Tom, because this is fascinating. I knew it would be rich in story and rich in depth. But there's a handful of things, if you don't mind, I just want to reflect on before we go on. Going back to those early days, like you got the bug at age 4 or 5 watching a cow being bled. In fairness, it's something that would probably turn a lot of others off, but for some reason it grabbed your attention and fascinated you. Mm-hmm. Guided your journey ever since. You also said, and there's a very obvious work ethic in your family, very obvious, right? Bringing the cows in before going to school and then putting on, if you like, the best bib and tucker, again for want of a term, so you could go to school so people wouldn't necessarily know what you had been doing. But it's just that work ethic there. He said, if you want to get something done, get up and do it. I loved the fact that your first ever flight was to Manila, right? Most of us were or something, right? You went to Manila.
Pretty scary.
And you landed in a typhoon and met a cockroach. Fascinating stuff. And it never turned you off. It was actually exciting for you. Then you went on to say that, you came back to London, and this part, we'll go back to you now at this part, but you found out the name of the head chef, I think you said in the Dorchester, and you rang him up. And I love that. I love that because we got to be proactive, right? He was never going to phone and ring you, right? You rang him, want to come work for you, and you started at the bottom, peeling eggs and doing the night shift. It's wonderful stuff. Tom, take us from the Dorchester to the Strand, please.
So I suppose from the Dorchester, it was hard work. Don't get me wrong, there was nothing glamour about it, to be honest. It was minimum 12-hour shifts. We were on basic minimum wage. I shared a tiny little flat in Westminster in London with another 3 commie chefs from Germany, France, and or 2 of them were Germans actually. And to be honest, we may as well, the beds were so close together, you may as well, if you put your hand out, you slap the other guy in the face, But that was the life back then. It was a great time. And to be honest, a lot of the chefs that I work with in the Dorchester are still friends with them today, and they're great, and they're all hardworking career people around the world, and it's good. So for example, some of my commie chefs or some of my chef de parties or sous chefs want to go to London, they want to go to Canada, they want to go to Australia, and I know somebody there, and you just put them in touch with the right people. So I suppose in the Dorchester then, I got promoted up the ladder. Then I got a chance to go to Singapore, and Raffles in Singapore as a training. So I went there for 3 months through the Dorchester, working in Raffles. It was amazing experience. Worked in all the restaurants, in all the kitchens in Raffles, learned an awful lot. Then spent another year or so in the Dorchester, and then we were getting married. Myself and Mary decided to get married because we were kind of shoving on, I suppose, at the time we were 24, 25. Of course, that's not very old now. So we got married, and when we came back, we got married here in Ireland, had a great time. It was the best 2 weeks of our life. Went back to London, and our apartment it got robbed the day after we returned. So that was kind of the deciding factor for us. No, let's make a move, let's do something different. So we decided to have a working honeymoon. So we planned it, took us about a year to plan our honeymoon. So then we just traveled around the world, we got our visa for Australia. We spent almost 2 years in Australia, but traveled through Cook Islands. We went to Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bali, and just had so many different cultures. We had so much money. We had, I think our whole life savings was like £4,000 or something. So by the time we got to Australia, we had something like $100 left in the bank. It was like, oh God, we got to get a job now and work. So we worked in Cairns. And again, I used the same tactic, rang up the hotels, found out what the chef's name is, and then called back as if I knew the chef. And at the time then I wasn't Tom Flavin from the Philippines anymore. I was Tom Flavin. I worked in the Dorchester in London. I'd like to talk to the head chef. And straight away the head chef picks up the phone. And I suppose we're very lucky in the hotel or the chefing career that there's jobs all over the world. So I had 2 jobs in Cairns, worked 2 of them at the same time, the Reef Hotel Casino and an Irish pub where I first went in washing dishes, but then I got up when they could see that I was able to cook. I joined the cooking line. Worked there for 3 months, and we saved a lot of money. Luckily, my wife Mary is a nurse, and she was getting paid probably 4 times the amount I was getting paid because it was basic minimum wage for me. So we saved a bit of money, and then we spent it all on our trip to Brisbane. And the same thing again, found out the best restaurants and hotels, phoned up the head chef. I'm looking for a job. It's only temporary. And with each step along the way, I suppose, with each job, they all wanted us to stay because I suppose we're not like the surfers that they were used to getting. We were in work, we work hard. So they wanted us to stay, they wanted to start our visas. But of course, we kept going, we moved then along the coast, saved up another couple of $1,000 and spent it on the way to Melbourne, and then worked in Melbourne for 6 months, did the same thing. Luckily, a friend of mine that I worked with in London had a house in Melbourne, so we shared a house with him for, I'd say, about 6 months. And saved up enough money then and travelled again and went up through Australia, hired a camper van and drove for 3 weeks from Darwin down to Perth. Then went to New Zealand, we went to Tasmania, we travelled to Cook Islands, Fiji, and just to see all the different cultures, and I suppose ate our way throughout the world, and then came back through the States and back to London. And to be honest with you, through all that travelling, it was coming back to Ireland was the biggest fear for me, because I didn't know much about Ireland. I'd left such a young age, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going back to probably bacon and cabbage and prawn cocktails, when, you know, I was used to so many different other cultures and different foods. But then when I did return, I realized, my God, the amazing produce we have here, and the fantastic dairy. Like, even in Australia, we were using UHT creams, and we were using frozen meats from New Zealand. Same in the Philippines, it was very difficult to get good dairy. But when I came to Ireland, it was like, I was just, a light switch came on. It was like, no, the best produce is here, and it's the west of Ireland, and it's the beef, the dairy, just the fresh produce, the fresh veg we have here is amazing. So
I love it. I love it. Allow me to come back in just for a minute, Tom, if I may, before. It's a fabulous journey. A couple of things that you said, by the way, picking up snippets and scribbled notes here. So network is really important. We've got to create a network of trusted, like-minded individuals that we can pick up the phone to at any point. And if you're worth your salt, you'll have a great network, and they'll be able to reach out to you and you to them, vice versa, and help each other. That's very important. Love the fact that you said yourself and Mary were pushing on. You're 24, 25.
yeah. That was at the time.
I get it, but looking back, anyway. By the way, I found a lovely picture of yourself and Mary on a big motorbike. I was going to use it as the, but I hadn't asked Mary's permission, so I chose not to. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, folks. And I've always been saying this, Wayne Gretzkyism, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I love the fact that Tom Flavin, originally from County Limerick, went to Manila, and all of a sudden he's Tom Flavin from the Dorchester Hotel.
Yeah,
it's great.
It worked for me.
But it's right. You know, work with what you have from where you are.
Yeah.
There you go. Tom, really exciting stuff. And now we're back in Limerick. Is this where you get involved in the Strand?
No, at first I worked in Castletroy Park, and again I think I was the youngest head chef ever there, probably the age of 25 or 26. Took over the kitchen in Limerick. Very daunting to be like going to Manila. I thought it was only when I had my feet under the table there I thought, my God, am I able for this? But I was. I again worked hard, got lots of help from really good people, got lots of advice from good people. And did it. I stayed there for 8 years as head chef, took over food and beverage and ran the front of house as well. But then the Strand, well, at the time, the Hilton opened in 2007. So I just went to have a look at the kitchen. They didn't have a head chef. And when I saw the kitchen there, I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. It's a brand new kitchen compared to, I suppose, a 13 or 14-year-old kitchen in Castletroy Park. Don't get me wrong, Castletroy Park was a brilliant place to work. It was really good people. Met some fantastic people there, trained with some fantastic people. But then it was time for me to move on, got to the Hilton, and again, a brilliant company to work for. The training was impeccable, the standards were really high. And we very quickly got a name for ourselves for good food, and I suppose they allowed me. It was very difficult in the beginning working with Hilton for me, trying to support all the local suppliers that I had built up over the years, because they have very strict purchasing rules. But luckily, being on the west coast of Ireland, and they expected me to buy eggs from Scotland, you know, they really couldn't argue with the fact. So I kind of broke a lot of rules in that sense. But then we parted ways with the Hilton, and we became a standalone hotel, the Strand. And the owners, I got on really well with the owners. And they give me a lot of leeway. Like, they know that we have worked hard. They know that it's quality that's our main objective, and promoting local and promoting Limerick. And like, the majority of our guests in the Strand are locals, so of course we're going to support locals. You know, we buy from the locals. They come and they have their weddings with us. They have their christenings, their communions. So that's where my ethos kind of feeds into work. Then I'm very lucky to work with some great people in different groups in the Strand. The Limerick Food Group, to be honest, has been formed since I was back in Castletroy Park days, I suppose. And there's fantastic food orientated people and people who just want Limerick to be put on the map as a food destination, because again, like me, they've travelled a bit, they've seen what's available in the rest of the world, and they realise what we have here is the best. And it's like, make no mistake, it is the best. The dairy is the best. The cheese we have here, the cream, the milk, the beef, the pork, it's just amazing. And there's not enough people doing it. Like there's I have probably 40 local suppliers, but to be honest, we could do with 80. We could do with probably 100, to keep the industry going. And it's by supporting these people that they get better and they get stronger. And I suppose they need more hotels and restaurants supporting them. And they might think that it's more expensive to have an Irish breakfast as opposed to you can buy bacon for half the price from Germany or from France, from different countries in Europe, but the quality isn't as good. And all the time, my philosophy is if the breakfast is good, the guest is going to eat it. So you pay for it and the guest takes it away with them. If they don't eat it, you've got to pay Mr. Binman or some other company to take it away for them. For you, so you're paying to get it in and you're paying to take it away. So if you buy a good quality that's a little bit more expensive, at least you're not paying to take it away again. So I suppose I'm very lucky to work with the Limerick Food Group. There's about 10 of us, 10 or 12 maybe. There's people who dip in and out from time to time. But again, it's all made up of busy people who are passionate about promoting local and about promoting Limerick. We run the Pigtown Culture and Food Series every September, and we're delighted to be saying we're going to be running it again this year. Of course, we'll be following the strict guidelines laid down by the government. There might be some element of online, but we're going to run it again. We're going to keep this rolling. It's got great coverage. It's got great, I suppose, it's gelled a lot of different people together, and we're all from different walks of life. Then I suppose I work with Fáilte Ireland as a food champion, promoting, again, the same thing along the Wild Atlantic Way. I'm very lucky to have good connections with like-minded people in every county in Ireland. I can ring them up and say, get advice on how to run a food festival, on how to run a market, little things that you'd never even dream. Like when I was growing up, I never knew I'd be involved running festivals. It just happens, it just evolves. We now have the West Limerick Food Series, which got great traction last year. We brought some of the best food writers in Ireland on a tour of West Limerick, visiting all the really good, solid suppliers and food establishments throughout Limerick and meeting the characters along the way. There's some fantastic people. I'd love to have a job that just promotes all these people. This is what I do in my spare time. We also have a full-time job.
I was just going to say, Tom, you actually have that job already. You're just not getting paid for it, right? But this stuff, dare I say it, this stuff, Tom, it comes out of your pores, right? You're absolutely passionate about food. That's patently obvious to everybody. You're passionate about hard work. You're passionate about the network. You're passionate about quality in terms of standard service. You're passionate about local, but you're also passionate about the environment at large. It's not just you in the hotel cutting the best you can with a supplier to get the best margin. There's a whole inclusion thing going on. I'm just loving it. Just loving it. Tell us, Tom, because we could stay on this all day because it's really fascinating stuff. So things were flying along in the Strand for all those reasons that you went to. And then COVID hit. Do you mind telling us what it's like or what it has been like in the last couple of months, please?
It's tough. It is tough. I won't, it's definitely the hardest part, I suppose, was to see everybody going and clearing out their lockers and everybody had to leave. And it's the uncertainty of it. It's like being in a dream. It's like being in a bad dream going, like, is this really happening? We went from, I suppose, in December, we had probably 35, 40 chefs working in the kitchen. And then to walk into a kitchen that's completely empty, dark, and just scary. It's scary times. So, of course, first thing is we need to get it back up and running, and how are we going to do it? And all these things were going through my head. Do we get the staff back? Do we cook for the frontline workers? Who's going to pay for the ingredients? We can't depend on all the local suppliers just supplying their produce. They need to get paid. And there are some great initiatives around where people are raising money, but it takes a phenomenal amount of manpower to do something like that. So, like, initially, of course, we used all of our fresh ingredients and we cooked for the frontline workers. Mary, again, is in ICU in Limerick. So like her days went from normal shifts to double shifts every day. And she'd come home from work at night, 11:30, 12 o'clock, and they hadn't time for a break, and that's not a joke. So we cooked up 100, maybe 150 meals and brought them to the ICU and dropped them, and that was surreal. But it was a good thing to do, you know, and it's not how I had envisaged meeting my wife on a professional level in a car park, handing her over boxes of food. But it was the scare factor that, like, it could have, we're very lucky that we have actually flattened the curve, and of course they are busy in the hospitals, they are really overwhelmed with patients from COVID, but it hasn't reached the levels that they had expected. So I think we're coping as a nation. It's down to everybody staying at home and doing what they were told to do. So now we are now running a takeaway service 7 days a week.
Just before we go into that, because you and I touched on that during the week, let me, if I may, invite the cafe audience to give Mary and the frontline workers a boot of bus for all the wonderful work they're doing. I think that's very important to acknowledge.
Yeah, definitely.
Mary and Co. And another one for Tom Flavin for his honesty here this morning. And you painted a lovely picture there, Tom. Scary picture. You said that, and a very sad picture. You said, you know, working with 30 or 40 chefs, and all of a sudden they're clearing out their lockers, right? To a cold, dark kitchen. And it's a very scary place, scary time for us all. Very real stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tom, tell us about the takeaway, and then tell us where you think everything's going to go for you and for the Strand post-COVID, please.
Well, the takeaway is a step in the right direction. It's definitely the first step back on the ladder to getting more chefs back in the kitchen. We just need to increase the footfall now. At the moment, we're doing about 30, 35 people per day, but we need to increase it to 50, 60. We need to buy as much more local produce as we can. We're trying as best we can to use all of the local produce. But if I'm honest, I had a lot of stuff in my dry stores that, like, when we were watching COVID evolve in the beginning, I was watching hotels around the world, and some of them were being locked down with 400 people in the hotel for 2 weeks. And I thought, oh my God, if that happens to us, I'm going to need to produce. So we had bought a lot of flour, we had bought a lot of pastas and, you know, beans and staples that needed if we did get to that situation. So I do have to use all that up. Some of it has a long shelf life. It's going to be there for a couple of years, and some of it needs to be used faster. But again, we're using local beer for our batter. We're using local fish. We're using all the local suppliers that we always normally did. But the difference is there's only one of us in the kitchen every day. So I'm in there today at 1:30, and you're doing, you know, living the dream. You're making the batter. You're portion the fish, you're mopping the floor, you're emptying the bins, you're calling the bin man to take the bins away. So there's just one chef every day. But the plan is to try and get them back as soon as possible, because people, they're all like myself, they're all used to being busy. They're used to doing a lot more than sitting around at home watching YouTube videos, and there's only so much I suppose you can do. So I just need to get these guys back, and it's like I call them every now and again, and you know, and I think that's important for our own mental health, to talk to each other and share experiences that we're all going through, because it's not normal to be sitting around doing nothing. So the sooner I can get everybody back, the better.
Tom, I found myself getting a tad emotional there when when you flippantly said, "I'm, you know, living the dream. I'm in there on my own." I get it. I think everybody in the cafe feels for you today. That's difficult, you know, because it sort of goes right back to those early days when you started out and you were, you know, peeling the onions and battering the fish and doing all the stuff. And we've come full circle after a full career. Very strange times, Tom. Very strange.
Yeah.
Before I bring you back in, I want to just tell people in the cafe one of many experiences I've shared with Tom over the years. There was a lovely woman that perhaps would know, Breed Fox, God rest her soul. Breed was a food safety consultant that I knew many, many years ago. And she invited me to a group of us to the Strand Hotel one night for a taster menu. And it was a 7-course taster menu that Tom and his team put up. It was stunning. And I've never seen hotel kitchen to produce as much volume in as organised a way as I've ever seen Tom do. If you ever check, I see Ian put in your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, Limerick Food Group, etc., all those URLs in there, so please check those out if you wouldn't mind, and honour this man. It's great work. Tom, we hope it's going to get back to some form of the next normal soon. We really do. What are you hoping for?
Yeah, I certainly hope to get everybody back as soon as possible, but it's going to be a slow process, I think. I hate losing any of the team that I have, because it's not Tom Flavin that does them fantastic 7-course meals. It's the 30 other chefs that are behind me, pushing me along, or carrying me along a lot of the time. But we just need to get everybody back working. We need to support each other. I suppose we need to support local businesses by buying as much as I can locally, and the locals by coming out and and supporting the businesses, not just the Strand, but every other restaurant and pub and bar and cafe in the locality.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. We're watching the social distancing rules and distance rules, and 30-40% occupancy is being spoken of.
Yeah.
And that makes it almost untenable. I see Louise Donnellan has joined us in the Lime Tree Theatre this morning, and she and I were chatting earlier this morning. And it really is going to be very difficult for businesses and hospitality and entertainment venues to get back up and running. It's going to take, I think, some time, and we're all going to be patient, and please God that the government will continue with the supports, and maybe this time next year, or maybe a couple of years from now, we'll have come back to a next normal, and that'll be great, and perhaps better in ways, because it'll have been informed by this experience we've all shared together. Yeah, really interesting time.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting times. Tom, listen, we could sit here chatting all day, but you got to go to work, right? And we've got the cafe audience to consider. So before we go to questions, to Q&A from the floor, which we'll do in just a few moments, what one tip, can I ask you, what one tip would you offer to your nearest and dearest? You get through this very strange time of COVID best by doing blah. What's the blah for Tom Flavin?
I think it's all about staying busy, stay in touch, stay grounded, and stay at home. I think it's, and like helping each other, calling somebody, like stay grounded. Like I'm on the bread train here, I'm baking bread 3 or 4 days a week. Bring some to your neighbor, bring somebody to some older person that you usually wouldn't meet, call somebody that you usually wouldn't call, get inspiration from other people. Like there's a small chef community in Ireland. I try once a week to phone somebody who I haven't rang in 6 months or a year, just to ring them, see how they are. And they'll lift you as well, because we're all in the same boat. Everybody's going through this together. Like not everybody's lucky enough to have a big garden that they can go out and set spuds and onions and garlic. Some people are doing it on a small balcony, on a smaller scale. But what I've done is I make a list for myself and I stay busy. Like some of the things on the list are just moving up and down the list. I still have to do a few jobs that I don't want to do, but it's still on the list. So for me, I have to make a list. I use it for work. I have a list at home. Get your list and stay busy. Call somebody who you wouldn't still keep in touch, or stay in touch. And it's all about staying at home.
Tom, that was just lovely. You gave us a handful of snippets of words at the very start there, and then you stopped, and I was tempted to come in and said, no, I'm going to let this sit. Princess Shelley started to boo the bus in the cafe for you, and then you expanded on it. It was just beautiful. So, Tom, really thank you for that. One more time, ladies and gentlemen, boo the bus for this man and your family. Wish your family and everybody in the Strand all the very best. Okay, Q&A from the floor. Who'd like to ask Tom a question from the floor? The first question this morning is from Breed McLaughlin. Breed, you're very welcome.
Okay, I'm really interested in food, and I have a bit of experience in the area, a tiny bit of experience in the area you were in for a very short time. And I went to Colm Street, and I'm really impressed for a while. And I'm really impressed because you've got Leroy D, as they say in Ireland. You've got guts and balls to head, and you did everything. But what I'm really impressed, what I wanted to know about, when I was in Colm Street, there's so much emphasis on classical French cookery, and I found it fascinating. But as a self-taught chef, it must have been, how did you manage that, to understand it all and get used to it? And because it's a tough area, it's very Pacific.
Yeah, and it was difficult, to be honest. And at times, and I look back now and I think I shouldn't have been, but I was very, I suppose, nervous, because a lot of the chefs I worked with, they'd all been to college and they'd all known what like, for example, a hollandaise. And I didn't have Google to quickly run in the corner and Google how to make a hollandaise. But I suppose I worked with some fantastic people and they taught me everything I needed to know, and if I wasn't sure of something, I asked. And I just learned. I was never really good at learning from a book anyway, to be honest. I do like reading, but I don't go reading to learn. I read from, I suppose, for my mental health. And I shouldn't have been nervous, because I was as good at any of these jobs as anybody else. I just needed to be shown how to do it once, and that was it. I got it. I picked it up very quick.
My sister used to call it, she was a chef, she used to call it the beautiful grind.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, so I was really enjoyed listening to you. I thought you were absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. Thank you so much for sharing with us here.
And thank you, Bridge. Lovely to have you in the cafe this morning. Thank you for that. And Tom, that was a great conversation between the two of you. I'm going to hand over to Princess Shelley. Tell us what's been going on in the cafe, Princess Shelley, please.
Hey Tom, thank you very much. Goodness me, graft. The word graft could be your middle name, and I love myself the lack of ego. There's no real kind of airs or graces. It's not me, it's everybody else. I love it. There's been some lovely comments here in Zero. I think I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I apologize. He said, hello Tom. So I'm not sure if that's someone joining you in the cafe that knows you, but they were saying hello at the very start of the interview today.
Oh, that's Sammy, I think, is it? He's in Poland. He told me he'd be on.
Oh, very good. Well, he's joining us. It's another international guest into the cafe, which is good. Hello out there. Thank you for joining us. Then Lisa is also on the call. She said, morning, I'm just off a call, delighted to make the interview. So we get a lot of that when they're popping in to finishing up other things and coming in to listen to the great chat that you're having. Ger is also joining us today, also originally from West Limerick, from Glyn. And when you were discussing about the cow and what initially spiked your interest, there was a big capitalized with exclamation mark, wow, I've never heard anyone enthuse about puddings before. Fascinating, exclamation mark. So, and yeah, I share Ger's interest there. My eyebrows were going up to the top of my head. It was just, I've never heard anyone talk about it like that before. It was really intriguing. Then Tom, Ian, as Colm mentioned, popped in all the different handles there. Your Twitter and Instagram, and of course Limerick Food and Pigtown and all that. So hopefully some of today's guests will go through that. Louise then, who Colm mentioned, is joining us as well today, says, people say our lives will change significantly. Tom, if there was one positive change you would like to see as a result of this pandemic, what would it be? What would your response to that be, Tom?
I think to respect more what you have around you. Like, we were also, like, I certainly was so busy I wasn't able to appreciate what I actually had at home. You know, I'm very lucky to be living in the countryside. I have a big garden that's, well, half of it is cut away now because we got rid of half the lawn, and we have loads of spuds and onions and garlic, and and appreciate that side of life and appreciate the time off. I think it's just fantastic. The time off is I love it, and you make so much more of what you have at home, and watch what you have at home and just make the most of it. I suppose I have a full-time job that's pretty busy, and then I have they're not jobs, other hobbies, and I'm involved in so many other groups that that keeps me busy too, but that's something I love. It's not work, it's just something I would always be doing anyway. But I suppose appreciating your family and appreciating your neighbours and what you have around you, and don't take anything for granted.
That's great advice. Thanks for that, Tom. I suppose everybody was forced off the hamster wheel, weren't they? And I suppose it's not been necessarily all bad. Lisa then said, thanks, Tom, for sharing your story. Hard work pays off. What an adventure. I love your attitude about local food suppliers and quality food. Well done for feeding the frontline staff. Have you thought about doing cooking lessons on social media in association with local food groups? And then just before you answer that, she said, so many people are stuck at home and the chefs would be kept busy, gain exposure, and it would keep the business in the forefront with locals as well, providing them with cooking ideas. Many would, I imagine, love to go and compare their creations to you and your professionals when they get an opportunity. What do you think about that, Tom?
I think it's brilliant, and so many chefs are doing it. So many chefs are on social media doing cooking demos. Yes, I would absolutely do it. But I still find myself busy. I have two kids, I hope they're not on a break right now. They're both in school in the other rooms. So I've got to keep me busy, and I'm lucky enough to still have a job as well that I have to go to. So if I have more time, I would certainly be doing videos, but I have loads of recipes that I share with the local school and our local newsletter through the hotel as well. So
you sound very busy. And do you know what I love as well, Tom, is your grace. You know, you've just got such great grace. I just love it. Claire says, I have a question. What time's lunch today? Question mark. And then she said, on a serious note, I've no question, just a big well done from Team Strand. And we look forward to better and brighter days as Team Strand. So let's give a big round of applause. Thank you very much, Claire and Young, coming in to us today. And then finally, Tom, C. Scully to everyone. She says, say hi to Tom from Katrina and thanks for West Limerick Food Series. So she obviously appreciates that platform.
Yeah, she's another one of those like-minded people that we're lucky enough to have in Limerick.
Oh, that's really good. That's really, really good. So some really good comments there and really great questions from everybody in the cafe. And thank you so much, everyone, for engaging. And thank you, Tom, for some really brilliant lessons and pearls of wisdom I've been making notes of. And I'm delighted to hand back to Colm.
Thank you, Princess Shelley. That was just a lovely few minutes. Thank you, everybody, for engaging. I love that part, that show. I get to sit back and have a cup of coffee and hear what's been going on. And then, Tom, later on, you and I will get to watch the whole thing back, which I also find fascinating. So once again, folks, please give a big round of applause to Tom Flavin.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Tom. Absolutely. A pleasure, Tom. I knew it would be great, and it's exceeded expectations. So congratulations. Before I let you go, let everybody go from the cafe, let me just tell you what's happening tomorrow on the Coffee at 11 show. And we've got a man zooming in from Cork, and I'm from the actual capital. I just put that out there. I'm from Dublin, right? Anyway, so Aidan Enright is joining us tomorrow from Cork, and Aidan is an executive coach and facilitator, but he's also many years, but he's also the founder of the Smarter Egg movement, and he's one smart egg himself. And he's got a Sunday blog that I'm a fan of, goes out every Sunday morning, Pearls of Wisdom. So folks, if you can at all tomorrow, come back into the cafe at 11 o'clock and meet Aidan Enright from that other capital. All right, look forward to that. Anyway, let me just wrap up by saying thank you to Princess Shelley, Katrina O'Brien, Ian Hannon for stepping in as guest services today. And once more, folks, let me say thank you to Tom Flavin, and I'll finish by saying, Tom Flavin, namaste.
Thank you.